Hey, I just popped on and already had one thumb up. That's lovely. I had to come back. Um, Pay me no mind, the channel. I didn't mean to leave the video at that exact moment. But sports, pay me no mind, sports and entertainment. Feel free to hit the like button, become a subscriber, so on and so forth. I had to come back. I usually hate talking about stuff unless I actually heard the audio. And, I did so earlier by speaking on the Draymond Green comments. I guess those came out yesterday. It was kind of weird that it was in a post NBA game, an NBA game post press conference was when this came up. But whatever. Shout out to Monica McNutt. I just started seeing her on ESPN, and in the last week and a half, maybe the last week, and I think she's genuine. I think I like her presentation, and I hope it bodes well for her, as a new face at ESPN. But what had happened was Draymond Green was on the podium, and I guess he was asked some question. I'm assuming I didn't hear the question, but he started talking about the reason why there's a vast difference in the compensation for the WNBA players and the NBA players. First of all, like, we don't even watch the NBA. I don't know anybody but Stephen A. and Damian Adams of the Real Deal with Damian Adams. That's the only dudes I know that watch the NBA. I mean, who even cares? Most of the teams are trash. Um, Most of us are tuning in for the first week to see what our draft pick does, especially if you got a draft pick from like 7 to 19 or something. You just want to see what this dude can do if he's even in the starting lineup. It may be some dude they have to tuck away somewhere for 2 to 3 years. So who is even watching the NBA? But Draymond, we got a problem with the truth being put out, and I respect what Monica McNutt said in response to Draymond Green, but Draymond was like, "Well, let's look at the numbers." And then he said the same thing, that nobody wants to listen to anybody nowadays. Nobody wants to listen to anybody complain about nothing. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. Nobody has the patience to listen to nobody's complaint about nothing. The funny thing is, if your product is hot, you kind of don't have to say anything. Like, I don't see the UFC females talking about money. Now, all of them talk about money because of the business model of the UFC and how they're able to do what they do with the fighters over there. But they still don't leave and go to the other options. But you don't really hear the women of the UFC talking about too much. You really don't hear the women's tennis players talk too much. I mean, Serena has said some things in the past about the pay, but they know it's so much, it's so many endorsement dollars out there for them that it balances out. And they have improved from what I checked in on it. They have improved the pay because the women's for a while the women's tour was where all the interest was. We just don't want to deal with the fact that the WNBA is not must watch. That's the truth. I couldn't tell you one WNBA championship team. And I'm gonna tell you the reason for me. A lot of the college players that I liked or that I learned about while they were in college, and they had some deep run or some good runs in the tournament. A lot of them got to the WNBA and did nothing. And it was like, damn, this is a tough league to make it in. But a couple of the players I was hoping and I thought were going to be transcendent, they didn't do anything. And then I just kind of watched it. I'm very happy that the women, though, the more that I see them, at first it was just the one former center from UConn. She was and the point guard, I think, from Tennessee. Those were like the only two media people for the WNBA. And now I want to say it's like 5 or 6 females that I see. So I'm glad that there are opportunities for them to cover their game. I'm even cool with the women who cross over and cover some of the men's games, or they talk about during the March Madness. I think some of them come over and everybody kind of talks. And I think if you're out there with all of the people, all of the different analysts, the pundits, the experts, if you're out there with them and you distinguish yourself as being witty, sharp, informative, entertaining, knowledgeable, must watch, if you prove yourself to be that way, I hope you go on to do XYZ. I do. But again, it can't be all of us who are wrong and the WNBA is right. Another thing, when they show this side-by-side comparison, that graphic that I've seen with Sue Bird or maybe even Taurasi, I don't know which one it was. And then they have LeBron James on the other side, and it's talking about the salary, all-pro championships, all-star games, all of it. They put all of that stuff over there. But what about throwing up there like size of the TV audience? What about I don't know, like endorsement deals? Maybe that's one that they include. But I'm trying to think of another metric. Attendance. What about attendance levels, like ticket sales? How come we don't put those stats up there? How much does a WNBA Western Conference or Conference Championship playoff ticket cost versus the male version, the men's playoff, conference championship or finals ticket? Like, who's paying $15,000 or $50,000 to sit courtside for the LA team, the women's team in LA? Like, show me those types of numbers. That's what I want to compare. But Draymond was basically like, you don't need to argue about this in public. Just have your numbers together and go fight, with the people that pay you. Another funny thing is, this kind of reminds me, this whole thing about fairness in sports and equal salary and all of this stuff. The one funny thing was in The Pursuit of Happiness. It reminds me of this. But Will Smith's character told him, he said, how did he know? I can't even remember who he was talking about. Jefferson or whoever the hell wrote the document. I can't think of the name of the document. But he was like, how did they know to put the pursuit of happiness? Like, they didn't just put in there that you are going to have happiness. He said, whoever authored that knew that you were going to have to constantly pursue happiness. And I think with this situation, this is no different than what we're seeing here. Is like, and all of this stuff that everybody wants to do, you're gonna have to, in all likeliness, you're gonna have to pursue getting what you deserve until you get to some level and you're happy with that. That's kind of the way it goes. But again, it's like I said, how can all of us be wrong? Besides my brother Damian Adams, I don't know anybody else that's had anything to do with the WNBA. And I'll be honest, I'll be even more honest. Usually I check out the women's Final Four. For some reason, this particular year, I didn't really do too much with the women's Final Four. I didn't really know when the damn games were coming on because of the scheduling and whatnot. But, Draymond can take his punches. Megan, what's her name? Rapinoe. She had her, she made her comments. And I think to some degree, I think the women's national soccer team, they probably have a case. I've heard some of their arguments. It was unfortunate what happened with the women. The difference between the facilities for the women in March Madness and the men. And maybe they should have, maybe once that story broke, maybe the women maybe they shouldn't have even played. And I know you can't miss out on that opportunity, and that's how the masters always have the leverage, because they have something that the slaves, the people who are pissed off, they always have something that they want. We have this prestigious tournament that we have, and it's this trophy that you want to win, and it's this one shining moment that you want to have, and you want to cut those nets down, and you want to shoot the buzzer beater, and you want to have this indelible moment. But even though you were treated as poorly as you were treated, you go out there and play. And maybe they shouldn't have played. I said the same thing when the whole Kaepernick thing jumped off, and it was back and forth about whether or not who was wrong, who was right, support, don't support, whatever. If the players really were in favor of Kaepernick, after the kickoff, when the ball was hyped, all the brothers should have just stayed in their stance. Don't run no route. Don't drop back. Just sit there. Just don't play. But again, nobody's ever really willing to take it to that level. So we just stay out here arguing about this stuff. But again, back to the whole thing. I think Draymond, maybe he didn't say it in the best way, but I think, when you keep looking at it from Draymond's perspective, all the times that he's been in the finals, as big as popular as the Golden State Warriors became at their height, it's probably crystal clear for those guys to see what the difference is and to justify the difference in the pay scales between the WNBA and the NBA players. And that same popularity is just not there with the women. So what is fair? What is a number that they would be happy with? So like I said, he probably was impatient and it's like, y'all keep asking me about this. It's real simple. And when you go to break things down in simple terms, people get their feelings hurt. So the one Chinny Ogwumike, she said, her opinion in response to Draymond was a little sharper this morning, but I don't think she was necessarily wrong. I mean, she went to Stanford. I mean, you gonna tell the woman that she can't think and can't put her defense together and her position together and whatnot. I understand it, but again, at the end of the day, you're only really worth what you can negotiate. And after 25 years, you know, if you're getting a fraction of what if the best female player is getting a fraction of what the best male player is getting, if you can't put some numbers to it to justify, you know, significant increases in your compensation, then you just can't do it. But if it's only 5,000, and that's the thing, we're what? We're 3 or 4 generations of women, new women who've come to this world, who've been born since the inception of the WNBA. And those new women, you know, graduating from, playing basketball in the 8th, 9th grade and coming through the whole process, like, are they still not forming like this big following that should be primarily made up of women? The woman that asked Draymond the question, do you also follow? Did you have a choice between following the NBA and the WNBA, and you took the NBA? I don't know. But again, with all these new eyes on the sport, and if it really hasn't grown to the levels to justify, you know, Bird or Tarasi or Skyler or whoever, if it hasn't Deladova, if it hasn't grown to you being paid $800,000, I guess you got to stay in pursuit of that happiness. I don't know. Tough one. As are most of these issues. Tough ones. Good luck to the women, though. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Peace.